What social customs do we need to retire? Story 1. Though it looks like this custom is fading away during the pandemic, but how about we stop glorifying us being model employees by showing up to work even while sick? I was at a retailer for 14 years, and I don't have enough fingers and toes to count how many times I used to see managers and supervisors dragging themselves to work while sick to please their superiors. In January 2020, I ended up getting the flu from a coworker that decided it would impress the store manager if she still showed up while sick with the flu. That culture went away real quick when we started getting COVID cases in the store, and I too ended up getting a mild case of COVID. I've called out any time in the past when I felt sick, and I will continue to do so as I normally did. I think the OP here is absolutely correct. If you're sick, please don't come to work. We have this mindset that we need to continue grinding despite our body telling us in very obvious ways that we need to rest, and it's just not healthy for you and everyone around you. If you're sick, don't come to work, and once we all get used to doing that, we should also normalize not coming to work if you are mentally unfit as well. Take care of yourself physically and mentally, and then you'll be the best worker you can be. Story 2. Worshipping celebrities. I don't get it, and it seems to just create tons of problems. I have met a good few famous people, and it's weird to know how regular people think of celebrities and how generally famous people are kind of normal. I think it's kind of rare to see folks ask for an autograph nowadays and just want to take pictures. I saw an older guy offer to sign a gift he'd just given another famous person, and I'm just thinking you're meeting in person and having a nice conversation. What does he need a signature on the gift he just received for? It was a nice gesture, and I'm sure the old feller was just trying to be cool, but I've never asked for an autograph from any of the famous folks I've run into. Story 3. That not having Facebook, Instagram, or other social media profiles is different or isolationist in some way. Someone replied to this comment by saying, "I've heard from some people that not having these social media profiles is a red flag when trying to date, because the other person can't internet stalk you. To me, someone not having these profiles would be a green flag to me because I also don't have them, so we'd get along great in that respect." I genuinely feel like not having social media profiles is going to be a normal thing in the future. Lots of people are coming to realize that this is all pretty much pointless. You don't need Facebook. You don't need Instagram. You can have a perfectly normal social life with just friends in real life and texting each other. Story 4. In Denmark, we have this tradition of throwing ground cinnamon and pepper at people who turn 25 and 30 respectively, if they are not yet married, except people often overdo it, strapping the victim to a streetlight and using an entire kilogram or more. It's harsh, stupid, and wasteful. It really needs to stop. Story 5. That because someone is family, you should force yourself to spend time with them and be nice and respectful no matter what kind of person they are or how they treat you. This goes along with the enabling acceptance of that's just how they are, rather than condemning poor behavior choices. Someone added to this comment by saying, "My fiance's family are these people. They've all acted like spoiled rats multiple times over the years and have put my fiance down every time they do it. They stopped doing it to me early on because I refused to take their BS. They will all shout and scream at her about how she's got life so easy because she's in a good relationship and has a job, but none of them make any effort to change their lives in any positive way. Of course, once they're done being awful to her, if she doesn't talk to them for a while, she's the jerk for ignoring her mother and sisters." It really sucks when family does this. They're being hypocritical and awful people, but it can also be really hard to just cut ties with your family. They may be awful 80% of the time, but then your mind always wanders to that 20% when they've actually done something nice for you every once in a while. Personally, I don't think you need to cut ties with anyone, but you should definitely call out shitty behavior when it comes up and make sure they know how you feel about how you're being treated. Story 6. Putting the responsibility on the customer to tip the service staff, especially in the US. Stop overworking the service staff, pay them a living wage, and if a customer does want to go above and beyond to reward someone for their outstanding service, they can do so, but are not obligated. Tips should not be part of their wage, but a bonus. And I have never understood tipping based on amount. So if I spend $150 in 30 minutes on an expensive meal versus $50 on an hour-long and probably just as good of a meal, and possibly more food, that's somehow the waiter/waitress should make more money simply because their food is more money, or that the staff who spent double the time somehow deserves less money? That makes no sense. Story 7. that somehow the concept of maturing means you have to give up hobbies that are seen as childish. I've taken roller skating lessons with a class of 5-year-olds and I don't have kids. All the parents thought it was strange, but I felt it was the best to learn rather than risking falling on the kids at the rink. Plus, since the kids were ahead of me on skills, the teacher had them show what they knew by having them teach me. The kids loved it. Many of the parents were bothered by me joining the class when it was specifically an all-ages class. I just didn't realize that I would be the only person not that young. I found out most of the parents couldn't skate themselves. Seems to me it would have been a good idea for them to be out there learning as well rather than just watching. Or, if they wanted their own class, enough adults could have requested a separate class. I hope all the kids kept skating. Someone responded to this comment by adding, "Going off that, I hate the idea that doing a hobby as an adult requires you to either teach, go pro, or go big on some competition circuit. A person can be committed to a hobby just because they enjoy it, not because they're trying to make money or become a world champion. I'm a swing dancer and people think they're being nice when they say things like, 'Wow, you must be a professional,' or 'Do you teach? I bet you teach. You've done it for so long.' And it's like, I appreciate the intention, but why? I DJ for $25 to $50 a gig. It's barely even a side gig, but I have no interest in teaching. I don't compete well. Sometimes I perform, but I'm really just doing this for fun. Why is that so hard for people to understand?" Over the last few years, there has been a huge resurgence in the hobby of playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I think that's wonderful. I'm one of the people who plays it, and for many people who don't play it, they are just now realizing that it can be a hobby that adults can do for fun without it being childish. And sometimes they even show interest in wanting to try it out, since so many thousands and thousands of people are enjoying themselves while playing it well into their 30s and 40s. I totally agree with the video games one too. Video games are not just for kids. There are so many really hard video games out there, and some that are completely terrifying, and some that will completely wreck you emotionally. Video games are not childish. They are an art form, and you should respect them as such. Sure, there are plenty out there that are for kids or are childish, but for those of us that know which ones to look for when we want an extremely immersive experience to get away from the rat race for a while and just play a game, you don't have to feel childish for doing that. It's a recreational activity, doing something really cool, experiencing something really amazing. Story 8. Not talking about salary. My job didn't want us talking about salary. Turns out the guy I was training who they hired had less experience than me and was making about twice my salary, and they wonder why I went bonkers in front of everyone and quit on the spot. Story 9. Diamond rings for engagements. They are a scam, and especially the 3-month salary custom is absurd. I heard a commercial on the radio yesterday with the typical fake testimonial, but this one actually blew me away with how dumb it was. The guy in the commercial was saying he had planned on buying a lab-grown diamond because it was cheaper, but then went to insert jeweler's name here and learned that natural diamonds retain their value over time because they are rare and one of a kind. So he skipped on the lab-grown and bought theirs instead for his fiance. My reaction was, why do you care if the ring has value or not? It's not an investment item, or at least it shouldn't function as one. You're giving it to your partner whom you plan to spend your entire life with, and they'll ideally never take it off. Or if they wear a wedding band as a daily ring, they'll leave the big beautiful natural diamond ring in a box in a closet somewhere. You're never going to find yourself in a situation where the ring will have appreciated and value in any significant way that would justify selling it outside of extreme financial emergencies. You're being conned by De Beers to believe that natural stones have intrinsic value when they are literally indistinguishable from lab-grown ones after being shaped by a gem cutter. Story 10. Making your kids hug or kiss people they aren't comfortable with. When I was a kid, I went to a preschool connected to a church, and one day they took us to a nursing home. They had a dozen or so seniors lined up sitting in chairs, and we were asked to walk down the line and give each one a hug, a kiss, and a prayer. I don't remember exactly how I reacted, but I remember refusing to do it and being scolded. Yeah, I completely agree. Your kid should not have to kiss or hug anyone they don't want to. And sure, some kids may be stubborn when not wanting to hug or kiss family members that contribute a lot to them financially and love them very much. But if the kid is just not interested in doing it, forcing them to do it is a really bad look. And as long as you don't force them to do it, if they do in fact choose to want to, it makes it all the more special. Story 11. Peer pressuring into socially accepted but potentially dangerous activities. For example, in many countries in Asia, many circles expect you to drink alcohol with them. Even though it's slowly changing, there still exist severe cases like seniors physically forcing juniors to drink alcohol. Hierarchy, seniority in workplaces should be lessened as well. In some places, seniors hold way too much authority over juniors. Story 12. Asking women when they are going to have kids, implying that they are bad for not wanting them. My girlfriend doesn't want them. I don't want them. I can't wait to own a nice car in the future. We don't want them because of our parents, and I have Crohn's, so I don't want to pass that down the generations, and my family has a really high chance of being autistic. So I got lucky with the DNA, didn't I? Ugh, I hate this. I especially hate the phrase, if you don't have kids, then the bloodline dies with you. Why are you trying to put guilt on me for not wanting to have kids? It's my life. I didn't even ask to be here, and now you're telling me if I don't have kids, then our whole family line is just gone? Well, that sucks, but I'm still not gonna have kids. Sorry. Story 13. The endless requirement of having to buy your partner, family, or friends gifts, birthdays, Valentine's, Easter, anniversaries, Christmas. I went shopping with one friend around December when he was buying his girlfriend some things, and after spending over $200, he was still worried that he hadn't got her enough. Can we please make this a thing? Every single holiday that comes around where you buy someone a gift, even if I do remember to buy a gift, I feel like it's not a good enough gift, or I need to get more, and it's just all guilt all the time. Story 14. That men should pay after the first date. It's not that I'm not willing to pay. This custom creates an unhealthy balance where people sometimes think they owe or are owed something in return. I feel like we're in this weird transitional period where most women are fine with splitting the bill, but as the man, you're still usually expected to at least offer to pay for everything to not seem cheap, like in a way where you both know you're gonna split the bill, but you gotta get this whole song and dance out of the way first. Story 15. Dressing for your age. I didn't survive the past 30-some years for a little stain Gen Z on TikTok to tell me what I can wear. I finally have the money and freedom from parents and employers. You better believe I'll wear what I want when I want. Living out your childhood dreams feels way better than dressing appropriate for my age to have approval from people who won't remember me. Colorful clothes for the win. Story 16. In North America, at least, shaming young people for still living with their parents. For decades before, you could afford to leave at 18 and get your own place and go to school. Then right after that, get your house to build your own family. That became the social norm here. The inflated cost of living and the fact that wages haven't kept pace have made that a pipe dream. Yet we still think it's shameful for a 25-year-old to still be living with mommy and daddy. This needs to die. I 100% agree with this. I am on board with living with your parents for as long as you need to. The economy is in the toilet, and you should not feel like you need to move out as soon as you graduate college or any time in your 20s. Stay with your parents as long as you want, or need to. I mean, if your parents start making you pay rent because you haven't moved out, then I guess you can move out because what's the point? But as long as your parents are kind and are letting you stay there for free or even really cheap amounts of rent, use that as an opportunity to save up so that you can get a house, because renting is a nightmare. Take it from my experience. I rent, and I throw more money away every month on renting this apartment than I would on a mortgage for a house. Here in America, if I had just saved up for a down payment, I could have just moved into a house and not fallen into this trap that is renting in the US system. Stay at home. You're not a child because you still live with your parents when you're 25, or even 30 for that matter. If they're willing to have you, stay. Story 17. Pink for girls, blue for boys. People say it's traditional, but I've read it was invented in the 30s by some American clothing store chain whose marketers realized they're gonna sell more if the baby clothes colors are separated by genders. In history, people didn't know the sex of the baby before it was born, and it took longer time to buy and sew everything, so they had to do it in advance. Also, the clothes were inherited from the older kids more. Pink is not for girls, and blue is not for boys. Blue is a wizard, yellow is a cleric, red is a fighter, pink/purple are for bards, and green is for a druid. Come on, people. Story 18. Pressure to have children. So many times I've heard, well, if you don't, your bloodline ends with you. Children are your happiness. You'll change your mind. Well, why don't you hold my baby? It'll change your mind. That's because you haven't seen my kid. They're so adorable. Like, no, I don't enjoy children. They annoy me to no end. Holding or seeing your crotch goblin won't make me suddenly want to have my own. I would rather save the money and enjoy existence over having an 18+ year commitment when I can barely afford my own life. It's stressful, and I shouldn't have to constantly be pushed towards it because of some false belief that parenthood is the only true happiness that can exist. And if you aren't a parent, then you're wasting your life. There's enough people in the world, so adding more isn't necessary. Story 19. The idea that video games are for kids. This mentality has never held up, even back in the 80s when gaming was just getting started. Sure, most games were kid-friendly, but just because it's inoffensive enough for kids to enjoy doesn't mean it's only for kids. I defy you to show me a kid that can easily play stuff like the original Super Mario Bros. Without dying and having to restart. On a similar note, people who hate on video games for being lazy or brain-dead entertainment yet sit around watching sports when they literally just stare and have no interaction with the entertainment. As I stated earlier, video games are not just for kids. They are an art form and they should be respected as such. Story 20. Wedding expenses. I'm currently planning one with my fiance, and the cost of everything is insane. Some venues literally charge double or triple for a wedding than they would for any other event. I seriously considered telling an event manager that we were having a birthday party. It honestly feels like a deliberate attempt to prop up the wedding industry. We're not even having a big or traditional wedding, and it's easily going to approach $20,000. There shouldn't be societal pressure to put yourself in debt to get married. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have another story that you'd like to share, please do so in the comments below. Then be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you know when our next video is available. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.